Today, I'm speaking with Benoît Sauvage about DMC, about sustainability, with fascinating information that Benoît has kindly shared with me. Enjoy the conversation with Benoît Sauvage. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today I am speaking with a true international entrepreneur from France to America. Benoît Sauvage has been working for French presidents. He's been working for his own DMC. He's also consulting in sustainability. A lot of interesting insight, I'm sure he's going to share. Benoît, thank you for taking the time today.
Eric, thank you very much for having me with you. It's a great honor to be participating in one of your podcasts.
That's very kind of you. And I don't think we're going to do it in French because most people would not understand.
I would agree there. Some French words will be coming along the conversation, I'm pretty sure.
Right. And for our French friends who are listening, we are very sorry, but this is going to be in English, the whole hour.
We will do our very best.
So the reason I'm kidding a little bit with French, and my first question is how did you get into our industry and how did you start? And I know that you had the opportunity at a very young age to work directly for French presidents and organizing all their meetings and travels.
Yeah, indeed. It was a great opportunity. And my dad worked for the presidential and prime minister press for all the trips overseas for 25 years. And I had the chance to join him. And I think the biggest opportunity before anything was working with my dad. And he really left a long-standing testimonial in me. I learned almost everything that I know about from him. And it's funny because when you see your dad at home and then you become an adult, a young adult, and you see your dad working, it's not the same man anymore. And it gives you another perception. So it was great for me to have the chance to collaborate with my dad. And of course, the opportunity was huge. He was stratospheric. He was working for presidents with the French president, the prime minister, and the press that goes with him, and being directly involved with the highest decision makers of the world. He was really eye-opening for me. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you told me that you were working for President Mitterrand and then from President Chirac, which would be like in the US going from working for a Democrat president to a Republican president. So what difference did you see? And most importantly, because as you know, we're not talking politics or religion here, but what did you see in the decision-making process with people that have so much power in the world? And obviously not only the French president, but when they were talking with other chief of state?
What really came to a revelation for me was that in the end, sometimes decisions that can impact the world are taken over a coffee or just a simple drink. It doesn't have to be that formal all the time. And in the end, it's just humans doing business with humans. And I try to apply that in my company and every collaborator we have, because I think you never can lose that very precise touch that we're just humans and we're just humans doing business with humans and making decisions among humans. So yeah, even if the interests at stakes are huge, in the end, it's just 2, 3, 4 G7 people, G8 people. How many chiefs of states do you have that sit together and try to find the best solution, not only for the country, but for the world as a whole? And sometimes that decision-making is easier than you will even ever imagine.
That's interesting. I think to remember, I read, I don't know when, about Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev speaking with each other, and the discussion were not going the right direction. And then they came back as a human approach, the two of them, and restart the discussion. Is there any anecdote that you can share? It's been some years now, so, the Secret Service won't go after you, but any funny anecdote or something that you will always remember that you were witness of?
Well, there's many, but there's nothing I can share right now. It's just too funny what comes up in my head right now to be able to share it.
Just one.
Well, I remember that Chirac was surnamed 2 minutes including shower. Go figure out.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
Maybe we won't share that one.
Well, I guess France is France. Anyway, so you've been working there several years. And then what was the jump between that and your next steps in your professional life?
Well, as every young adult and young man, I thought I was smarter and better than anybody else. And at some point, I mean, I could have just followed the track of my dad, but I felt like I needed to do something on my own. I needed to be the own boss of my own destiny. And I will always remember I was stuck in a traffic during a strike in France. I mean, in France, I cannot tell which strike because we strike all the time. But I remember spending like 6 hours in my car that night trying to go back home. And at that point, I said, you know what? That's it. I'm done. And I had just spent some beautiful holidays in Mexico, backpacking, traveling by backpack through Mexico for like a month and a half during my summer break. And I don't know why, but sitting there in that car, I had great connections in industry. I just decided I would move to Mexico. And a month after, I was gone. I was gone with a bag. I had $1,000 in my bank account back then that I'd saved, and I just took on the adventure. And I contacted Ron Wicks that used to own Global Holidays, Transglobal Vacations. It's a company based out of. It was a company. I think it's been sold many times since then, but it was a company based out of Minneapolis. And I said, "Look, Ron, I'm moving to Mexico. Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Cancun, and I'm looking for a job." And they gave me a job, and that's how I started. So I met with Ron Wicks before. I was working with Susan Holt. I don't know if you guys remember Susan.
The name rings a bell, absolutely.
Yeah, she owned a Holt Paris service. It was a very good DMC, very famous back then, based in Paris. Susan is English. And I was doing I was helping her around with some American programs that she had in Paris back then. And then that's how I met the team at Global Holidays. And then they sent me to Mexico. And I started helping them with all the charter operation. I think with like 30 or 40 charters a week. It was very busy. And after that, I'll try not to give you the too long story, but after that, Ron called me. I was back in France and he called me. And I always remember we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any Google Maps or whatever. And they called me and they said, "Look, Ben, we're going to give you your own destination." I was like, "I'll take it." And they said, "Well, we didn't tell you where." I said, "Well, I'll take it." And they told me it's Dominican Republic. So I'm opening an atlas and I'm going through the pages and I'm looking to Dominican Republic. I see the tiny island in the Caribbean and I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And I was sent there for the first 6 months because I was doing like winter periods for Transglobal Vacations. And then I was a hotel manager for Loop Voyage, go figure out. And then I was sent to Africa. I worked in Sri Lanka, in Spain, in different countries. And finally, I established myself definitively not definitively, but for that time in the Dominican Republic, where I opened Connect DMC 23 years ago.
Wow. What a story. That's amazing.
This is how it started.
In 23 years, you've seen a lot of crisis from the subprime, from the volcano in Iceland, erupting and closing the airspace, from all those
9/11.
Right. Yeah, and getting there for sure. Now, the pandemic hits, we're getting out of it finally. What have you learned that you want to share with other business owners with all your experience?
That's a very good question. Because if you go back to the latest experience, the COVID pandemic was long. All the other major issues we had, I said, didn't last that long through time. And I think that the biggest panic movement that everybody had about COVID is like, when is it going to stop? And is it going to stop? So resilience is huge, definitively. But also, these too shall pass. So always look at any trouble that you have in your life, that it's your personal life, that it's your working life, these too shall pass. So the way I deal with my business life and my personal life, you have challenges that comes your way every day. Classify them. Which one is the most important? Go through it, resolve it, move on, take on the other challenge. And since we rebuilt our industry after the pandemic, and we're doing all very, very good now, I must say, I'm really happy about that, to see everybody thriving again. It's very, very important. And that's what I do every day. I just wake up, I look at the challenges of the day, I take the most important, I resolve it. If I can resolve the most important challenge in less than 48 hours, I'm very happy.
That's awesome. What the decision you had to make, obviously, like everyone, you had to cut costs, you had to reinvent yourself or see when things are going to come back again. What can you tell us that you've learned in the model for DMC? Because if I remember, 10, 15 years ago, even before the internet, it changed completely. Now you give a price, people are going online, comparing. What is your advice for other business owners in terms of demonstrating the value of the service they're providing to their customers?
First, you need to know yourself. You need to know your company upside down, and you need to make sure that everybody that collaborates with you has the same values and culture that you want to implement in your company. I'm all about company culture. I think this is where everything lays. I always tell our collaborators, you spend more time with us within the company than you do with your own family. It has to be a happy place. It has to be a place where you can express yourself, where you can grow as a human being, as an individual, and where we can help you also grow your own career. I never hire people just to leave them at one spot. I make sure that they have exposure, that they can build on social media, that they can build through SITE, through MPI, through FICP, all the associations we're a member with. And I always push them on being better professionals, taking on certifications. So I think that first, it's what values, what do you bring to other people within your own organization? And by saying that, it makes me realize I totally forget what your question was.
That's okay. But I think what's
sometimes I go with my own passion and then I forget.
I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one.
The point or not?
Right. I'm glad to see I'm not the only one suffering from ADHD.
Yeah, it's the age, my friend. It's the age.
And I don't remember my question either. No, seriously.
That's good.
You're talking about recruitment and culture, which I can only concur with you. Is there something specific in the process that you're using for recruiting?
So the human touch. I should maybe not reveal that secret because we are constantly and lately we are hiring. I just hired 5 new beautiful candidates, I would say talents, and then we're hiring 7 more people in the coming weeks. But the way it is structured is we have a director of human resources. She would contact every single candidate that we think could be a good fit or we could be a good fit for them, because he has to be on both ways, right? It's a two-way channel. And first, she makes a first approach to see if they are available, what their needs are, where do they stand in their career, and then how do they want to grow and where do they want to be. Then I have the supervisor, the person that they would report to interview with that person and see again if the fit goes in both ways. And then I'm coming in third or fourth place, where I try to narrow down to maximum 3 candidates, generally to a position, and I make the final call. But my call is more based on the human being himself. Who are you? Why are you here? Why would you want to work with us? What do you think you can bring to this company? But what can we do for you? And I think that's the most important. That's the touch that I want to have. We are a family-owned company, which is great because we're super flexible. We can make total 360 twists in just the snap of a finger, right? And it's good. But also, we are a family-owned company, so sometimes we're too familiar one to each other, which cannot be good also for the business growth as you go along. But I want to make sure that the individual has the same culture, has the same views, and that we can give something to that individual also in the future. The idea is not only to hire, it's hire, train well, pay them well, let them grow.
Yeah.
And make sure that if you do that well, people will stay with you for a long time.
That's for sure. Yeah. Additionally, and I agree with everything you said, but what we use is the predictive index. There are other tools like that, but it's 2 questions. You have to select some words. It takes 10 minutes to do. And the first time I did that with the person we're working with now, Vic Coppola is his name. I said, Vic, I want to do the test myself. So I answered the question, and then we went for lunch. And for 40 minutes, he told me exactly how I'm working, how I'm communicating, what is important for me, what is the best way to engage with me, professionally speaking. And I was like, Wow. But that's easy for you.
Wow.
We know each other for 20 years. So we started laughing because we had just met a few weeks before. And since then, I'm using this for every single recruit. So I do exactly what you said about culture, about why would you like to work with us, what is important, the human touch and everything. And I also validate with that, and it's been helping tremendously. So just a hint
That's
there.
good. Very, very, very good tip. Definitely, I'll use it. Yeah.
Going back to my question earlier on, so with all the change with the business model for a DMC, with the internet there, is that how do you demonstrate value and how do you go back to your customer and position your company as the company they should be working with? And I got the culture part, absolutely, it's very
Yeah.
important. Is there anything else around that?
No, definitely. We have the chance of being on destinations that are famous for not being easy. Caribbean and Mexico, where you cannot operate. It's easier, let's say, to operate. You have a 2,000 people convention anywhere in the States. You can always call directly. If your only needs are transportation, you can always call a transportation company. They will show up, they'll be on time, and they will transferring your people from the airport to, from point A to point B, if that's your only needs. But we are everything before, after, and in between. We're not a transportation company. We're not just a people that sells tours like you will find anywhere online. We're everything about creativity, uniqueness, everything about decor, everything about setting up the right talents for exactly your needs, understanding your goals and objectives, and making sure that we have the right answers to those goals and objectives, but that we create something that you never could experience or have done anywhere else. So we have that global, that world vision. It's not about just the Caribbean and Mexico. What interests me is what's going on in Thailand, what's going on in Vietnam, what's going on in other places, other parts of the world. How are those collaborators working and what can they offer? And then how can you find and create your own uniqueness? How can you step apart from the others? And it's not only the quality of your services, but there's also one thing that is very important. It's very easy to sell. And you know that, Eric, anybody can sell. It's easy. You just promise something. You being a politician, you promise the same thing to everybody and you're elected.
But I'm not a politician.
No, you. I say selling. It's being okay. being very politician. You just promise everything to everyone that they want to hear. But what matters is how do you deliver?
Yeah.
And I think that's what steps you apart from the others. How good is your operation? How can you foresee something that might happen before it happens? How can you make sure that the clients are satisfied at all time? And if they're not, how can you make sure that that little bump in the road doesn't happen? And if it does, how can you correct it right away? So I think it's not only being creative, being authentic, everything that we've been hearing a lot lately, but it's a matter of what is your long-lasting testimony you would leave. And I go to sustainability. Sustainability is not just only caring about the environment. Sustainability is about caring about the communities, caring about your collaborators, caring about the attendees, caring about absolutely everybody. And I think what also steps us apart from the others is the involvement that we have with the local communities in every destinations we are. Through years, we have built and refurbished, I think, more than 17 schools. We sponsor 2 orphanages. We work with the baseball league in the DR and the soccer league in Mexico, where we take the kids that are coming from troubled families, that could be prostitution, drugs, whatever. We make sure that those kids, instead of passing time in the streets, they get education, and they get education through sport. So we do lots with the local communities too. And I think that's what allows us also to hire talents, local talents. All our staff are local. We want people to have gone to school and knowing their destination on the palm of their hands. So they are most of the time issues of the community works that we've done through the past. So I think that's what makes us different. But again, know yourself, know your culture, and be able to find simple ways and words to express that to your client. If your gig is transportation and tours, then tell them I do transportation and tours, and my entry is the price standpoint, or my entry is I give you a private bus or whatever. We do that, but we do way more than that. We really are a full house company.
Awesome. Thank you. To your point about that the goal is to create unique experiences that people cannot duplicate if they go back with their friends and family. That's really where the value is created in an incentive trip or original meetings that people would remember. And when I used to do that, I would always work with local people because guess what? You cannot
They're
know
the
the world
experts.
as you know your city. So, yeah. And
Definitely.
also on your point of sustainability, I'm glad you say it's not only the environment. And I would like to speak a little bit more about that. Tell us what you do in that context, but also what is the approach? I remember when I had my own corporate event agency in Brussels some years ago, I signed up to the Global Compact of the UN.
Yeah.
Although UN is another thing we can talk about. They talk a lot, but they don't do much. But that is, it's my point of view. But I like the approach of sustainability because it was not only about the environment. It was about people. It was about business. So what is the approach that you advise people to take when it comes to sustainability in our industry, and what do you do in that field?
So, and you very justly said the approach and the three pillars of our industry on sustainability. It's first people. You put people first. Planet. So if there's no people, there's no reason on living. There's nothing happening. There's no industry. There's nothing. Planet. If we don't have a planet, definitively same story. There's nothing happening. And then the profit. And it's very important to consider the three of them together, because without profit, if we cannot communicate properly the profitability of sustainability, the extraordinary amount of savings that you can have, not only doing good for the planet, but doing good for your own organizations, you will fail. So people, planet, profit, and you really need to concentrate on those three aspects. Sustainability is environmental, it's societal, and it's economical. It's three different approaches that we just mentioned. I think that my sustainability journey started around 7 years ago. And I always had it in my DNA, but I didn't know. And one day I came back home and I was just chatting with my boys, and I realized what was going on around the world and how things are not most of the time properly managed, or people are not properly treated. And I was looking at my two boys and I was like, wow, what type of world I'm going to leave those guys? And then I decided to be part of the solution and not the problem anymore. I didn't know anything. I just started studying, taking on certifications and listening to podcasts and immersing myself for 7 years. And then as I learned, I felt like I have to share that learning. I need to communicate that to people around me. And my family is the hospitality industry. So that's where I started. And I started being a speaker on sustainability. And I think that my first speech was for Site Northeast. And we had an event in Dominican Republic. And there's a very funny story around that, but I won't share it during that.
No, why not? Come on, Benoît.
No, that will leave trace. But I'll share it with you after. And that was my very first speech, and it's some 6 or 7 years ago. And since then, I've been giving speeches constantly via IMEX, both IMEXs, Site, and every time where I feel that there's a need and people needs me, I always show up and I try to explain and present to the people. So the idea is, where do we stand as a world? Where do we stand as an industry? What can be done? And then I give like 25 tips of what can you do in your household and as a corporate planner or supplier. But lately, I also have another passion, which is travel to space and conquest to Mars. I'm very, very interested on where are we going as a species, as humans, right? Soon we will be multi-planetary species. And it's very, very interesting what's going on there. So around 2 years ago, as I still had 2-3 hours to spend during my nights, I was like, why am I sleeping? I could do something else. And I opened Hospitality Sustainability Revolution, which is a consulting company on sustainability. And one of our greatest clients is a very famous travel to space company. And that really opened my eyes. We do all the carbon emission calculation, reduction and offsetting for those guys and other things. And we work for hoteliers and many, many stakeholders. But that really opened my eyes on how you can easily find solutions on the conquest to Mars and on the ISS, the International Space Station, that would resolve lots of the issues that we currently have as an industry on Earth. So it's very interesting to link all that together.
Like what, for instance? That's very interesting. Like what?
Well, okay, so there's an Israeli company that found a way to 3D print food. So they extract cells out of a cow, for example, and then they create very thin layers of cow cells that they reproduce in an in vitro broth. And then they put that into a 3D printer and you can print your own steak. You can do that with vegetables, you can do that with poultry, with whatever. But it's kind of the food of the future. And that's how we will produce food as we go on to Mars. There's a new device that has been created by NASA. And that device allows you to extract the 4% oxygen that is inside of the Mars atmosphere and reproduce it to create oxygen. In order to power fuel, you need oxygen. So oxygen for the trips to come back from Mars to Earth will be produced directly on Mars. On the space station, International Space Station, sending a gallon of water from Earth to the space station cost $87,000. Sending a steak cost $37,000. So you need to find solution on your water production and on your food production. So water production, it's simple. Everything that is water on the station is recycled through very good filters, and it's constantly reused. So it's a beautiful cycle. But when you say everything, you say sweat, you say urine, you say everything that the astronauts can produce. And they need around like 1 gallon a day just to shower and exercise and drink and cook and so on. So if you had to send a gallon every time, it's $87,000. I mean, it would be outrageous. And there's a lot to learn about waste management, because there's no way you can send a rocket to Mars with food and beverages. The size of that ship will be absolutely impossible for it to take off. So you need to deal with a better way to deal with your waste. And there's brand new solutions out there that helps us with that. So yeah, it sounds a bit crazy, but it's very, it's very, very interesting.
Very fascinating. By the way, there's some people I'd be more than happy to offer them a one-way ticket to Mars. So, but that's another story.
Soon it will be pretty approachable. I think it will be around $50,000. So you'll be able to send whoever you want, Eric.
I'm interested in what you just said about this steak 3D print, because I was thinking, on one hand, people said we're too many human beings on Earth.
Yeah.
And if you listen to people like Elon Musk, they said, actually, we are losing people on Earth because we're not producing as many children as we used to in the past.
We are.
And that is going to be an issue. But from what you're saying, can I draw the conclusion that with that technology, we can actually feed everybody?
Yeah, we could. We could. And if we would just look, 40% of the food that is produced in the world never reaches a plate. 40%. That enough would be able to feed everybody on Earth, everybody that doesn't eat at the same rhythm that we should be, everybody that has, let's say, food issues. Now, if you take on something, we are 8 billion people. If you think that some people eat 5 times a day, others eat every other day, we take an average of 2 meals a day. You're talking 16 billion meals a day. 16 billion meals a day. We need to find new ways. There's no way we can have all the cattle that we have. We can consume all the meat. And so I think that it's very interesting what will happen with food in the future. And I see it more now and I'm French. I love eating too much. But I see it more as a source of energy. And I think that you need to power your body with the right fuel, with the right energy. So look around you, and vegetables are pretty good.
That's very interesting. Now, I just want to come back to our industry and sustainability.
Sure.
So on one hand, I quite frankly saw a picture recently of all the decision makers or the big thinkers in the world gathering in one place to tell people how to be sustainable. And you saw all this lineup of private jet. And I said, come on, this is the big hypocrisy. But when you come to our industry, and it's very important, obviously, to offset carbon or trying to balance and have an impact locally, I absolutely love that. What is the best way to do so in a non-hypocrite way, not like a greenwashing way of doing it, but genuinely caring for people, planet, and profit in our industry? What are 2-3 things that any business owners should be thinking about?
Well, first of all, don't greenwash. And I'm absolutely love that you're saying that, because it's very easy to say, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then we're not doing anything. Greenwashing is the worst enemy we can have. If you talk about transportations, the name of the game on the carbon emissions is not the compensation itself, even if it helps. It's the reduction. So before anything, you need to calculate. You need to know where you are. And you and I know that data is everything nowadays, right? So you need to have the proper data. In the carbon emission calculation, there are three scopes: scope 1, 2, and 3. Scope 1 is mainly, it's kind of complicated, but you have three different scopes, and scope 3 will be the most complex one, which involves everything that is travel related. So if your collaborators have to travel or if they have to commute, that's how you calculate everything. Once you did that calculation, you'll be amazed by the numbers, but then you need to find ways to reduce that impact. So if you commute and you are two coworkers working and living pretty much in the same place, commute together, and you start reducing right there. Shut up your computers at night. Shut up the lights in your building. You don't need, you might have a neon logo. It looks really good, but shut it off at night. Who needs to see that, right? And then you need to work around your own food management and everything that is your own waste. Waste is huge. How can you print both faces of a paper and recycling your own paper all the time? So there's simple steps that you can implement as a business owner. And I always say, if you want to clean the world, start by cleaning your company, by cleaning your own house, right? Yeah. And it's not that complex. I think that the big thing, and that's what we're seeing at HSR, the big thing is, where do we start? People have no idea. And if you take just very simple steps that you're already doing in your house, everybody's recycling, everybody just apply the same things as a business owner. And now regarding transportation, and I think that somehow we might miss the gap with all the electrical cars that we're trying to put on the market, because in 10 years from now, what will we do with those batteries and all the rare metals that they have? I think that the solution lays in hydrogen. And you will hear more and more about that. Yeah. And definitively for planes, definitively it's hydrogen.
Interesting. I have a friend who has the carbon neutral airlines. Is actually in a previous podcast. You can listen to him. His name is Richard Kane, and the company is VeryJet. It's absolutely phenomenal what they're doing with those Cirrus Vision Jet in terms of sustainability, which is absolutely spectacular. But again,
the cruise lines are doing really good, I must say. The cruise lines are doing an amazing job too. Yeah.
Yep. But going back one last time now to the meetings and event industry. I remember years ago in London at a conference where people say, you know what, we're just gonna not have a global conference anymore. We're gonna have a regional conference, and we won't have people flying from the US to come to Europe and vice versa. And I was like, here we go with a eco-terrorist, as I call them. We're missing the point of the face-to-face. And whether it's with a conference or even with sales, I cannot remember the number of cases where face-to-face made all the difference. So what is your advice there, and where do we draw the line?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And I think that, first of all, we have to step away from the fear. And if there's a challenge, we need to sit down, all of us, and see how can we better work together and embrace both our industry and sustainability together. Sustainability, again, is not only the environment. It's everything around the communities, everything around how you treat people, and everything how you do good for people around you, for your collaborators. Face-to-face is everything. Nothing will ever replace face-to-face. As a destination management company, and I think that 80% of our productions are purely incentives, there is no way I can explain you the sound of the wind going through the palm trees in the Dominican Republic when the sun sets on the ocean through Zoom. It doesn't work. You need to leave that. So you need to leave those experiences. And I think that we have now ways and means in order to make sure that we can, again, gather that data, reduce the emissions, and compensate whatever we could not reduce. And for that, you mentioned the United Nations. They actually have a great program for carbon offsetting. And it helps you. I think we need to see the world as a global environment, and not only our country, our destination, or what do we do as a company. But in the end, what we want is to have a negative impact globally. And you have ways to do that already. So I don't fear it. And I don't think that anybody should see whatever is happening on the sustainability side as something that could possibly affect our industry. Contrary, we are 10% of the world employment. We are 10% of the world GDP. We have a huge impact, but we have a huge voice. And it just matters to us to take on the right decisions and make sure that that we compensate and we offset everything that we cannot reduce. And that's it, as simple as that. I don't fear it. I don't see it as a threat.
Benoît, I'm truly grateful that you took the time to speak today with me, because it's fascinating everything you're saying. I could speak and listen to you for hours. I have one last question. When you're looking at what you're doing today, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's an excellent question, Eric. If I knew, I would tell you I will have the lottery numbers and I'll be retired. No, I just keep on doing what I do. I really like it. I mean, I really love it, honestly. And I just hope that I'll still be able to manage the time between work and family. I have two amazing boys that are becoming beautiful gentlemen, and they are very big also in sport. Oliver is doing the Junior Olympics on water polo this summer, so it's a big thing. And Matthew, his little brother, is following his steps. So I think that in 5 years, more destinations on the DMC side, definitively, and more activity also, I guess, on the sustainability side. But I hope for me to continue finding the right balance and making sure that I'm part of my own beautiful family, and I'm not a stranger coming home from time to time.
Awesome. Benoît, thank you so much, and I hope to see you live very soon.
Thank you, Eric. Stay well.
Benoît, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Fascinating conversation. I can't wait to have a face-to-face meeting with you on Mars and to print our own steak, or not. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your network. And if you want to connect with me, go on LinkedIn or join our Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. Thank you. Bye-bye.